Welcome to Wealth Made Simple with Shaz, where you'll learn how to master your money through business, property, and tax-saving strategies. Your host has collectively helped his clients make tens of millions of pounds in additional profits through these strategic approaches to business. Introducing Shaz Nawaz, an award-winning chartered accountant, property tax expert, entrepreneur, and property investor.
We're going to talk about scaling your property business.
Absolutely. And where are we starting, Kieran?
We start with the foundations. Very good place to start.
That's always a good start when you start with property. Start with the foundations. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
No, but it's true in business as well, isn't it? Start with your foundations. And by your foundations, what I mean is you can go into your property business and you can say, okay, well, I've got this, I've got that X, Y, and Z, I've got this many properties, I've got that much coming in. Okay, cool. I can manage that. I do a bit of this, I do a bit of that. And you don't document any of it. And because you don't document it because you're not doing it. You're personally involved in all of it. So you're personally involved, you know what's going on. The paperwork, the admin side, it's an extra layer that I don't need because I'm personally involved in all of it. And that's where you start already, right at the beginning on this foundational level, start coming unstuck. Because once you get to the next level, you're going to have other people doing this. And if you want them to do it your way, or if you've got documentation, you've got the admin side of it, you can go, here is what I have done. I would like you to do more of the same. And it allows you to have a system and a process in place already from the beginning that you can give to anyone, and anyone can read it, learn it, implement it. And so that's where I would start. I would start with just take notes. Note down everything you do in a day.
I tell you what would be fantastic. Do you remember when we came up with that particular model about, I think it was the 6 Fs. Do you remember when we said finding, funding, fixing,
Fund,
flipping?
fix, flip,
Yeah,
refinance.
Yeah. And so I think what we should do maybe next week is talk about that. 'Cause I think that was pretty genius, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think that worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And because I eat my own frogs and follow my own advice, Shaz already knows this, but I've documented all of that.
Aren't you a good lad?
Well, it just goes to show that we are eating our own cooking, and that when we give out this sort of suggestion and say, if you start documenting early, it's a lot easier to add things on or take things away as and when you need them. But to start with a blank piece of paper when you're 7 years down the road is a lot harder. And so we developed this find, fund, fix, finance, flip model, and we documented the whole process and the whole thing from start to finish.
Yeah, and it isn't easy, but it took us a while, and we had to do a lot of deep thinking. But it's stuff that people can use and obviously get results, and we've done the heavy lifting for them. It's a cookie cutter process, as you know, and I think that's something important as well in terms of scaling up, is having that cookie cutter process, whether it's given to you by somebody or you create your own, so you can rinse and repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important, regardless of when you think about scaling your business, how far does it get before it breaks? What's the breaking point? And I think that's a really good question to ask.
Yeah. Or as the stuff that we as sometimes do, by the way, happy to openly share, as you know, is we say, let's now get busy with doing stuff so we get to breaking point. And that's a marvelous thing to do, isn't it? Because that then forces you to make sure that your business operationally, financially, and in every other sense as well, by the way, process-wise as well, okay, is enhancing, developing, evolving, improving, okay, as you're putting more strain onto it. And for you and me, as you know, the strain is okay. How do we improve the sales and the marketing, and then bring in the efficiencies with that?
Yeah.
And it's
And
wonderful. Yeah.
the other nice thing about looking at scaling, growing, developing your business is how do you make yourself irrelevant?
Yeah.
Because that's really, really scary. Yeah. How do I make my business so efficient, so systemized, so process driven, so data driven that if I'm not there, it will continue.
But that's the only when time you have a business, don't you, Kieran?
Yeah.
Because at any other point, okay, you have a
Job.
people dependent or a person. Yeah, you got a job. You like I said, you got a job, and you've got a people dependent business. And what you never want is a people dependent business. You want a process dependent business,
Yeah. Because if
and that's pretty much utopia for most property investors and most small business owners.
yeah, if you and I never went back to the office, certain processes wouldn't happen. Let's be honest. We know they wouldn't. They've not been
Yeah, that's right.
integrally systemized yet. But we're
Yeah.
working towards it. We are working towards these things. We're ever growing, ever developing. There's a lot to learn. There's always a lot to learn. But there's a lot of it. There's a lot of things that would just continue regardless.
Yeah, the majority of them, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a really nice place to be. And the nice thing about that level of growth and that where you can take a step back is taking a step back doesn't mean leaving the business. And I think a lot of business owners and small business owners and entrepreneurs sometimes get in their own way with this, is that, oh, but the business needs me, the business needs me, the business needs me. But what if it didn't? What could you do? What could you achieve? Because you've already developed one business and you've systemized it and processed it and made sure that everyone is following it. And you know you can check in, and as long as you check in and the systems are being followed, the process, the business is working, the model's working, it's stacking up, it's scaling. So now
And
you've
you
got...
can't tell it if it relies on a person or a very small group of people, then it's not saleable, is it? Why would somebody buy your business? Because it's pretty much worthless to some extent. What they might buy is your client customer base or the contacts or some other part of your business which may have some value.
But that's
Okay,
not
but the
as
greater value is
valuable as an
in the
entire
whole, isn't it?
business.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause it doesn't work without you. So there's a lot of mileage in doing that uh, to make sure that at some point when you want to exit, you've got some capital value there. Okay, and it's the same as we've talked about property, haven't we? Do two things. The first one is create cash flow, monthly cash flow, which is profit. Okay, I mean cash flow isn't exactly profit, but I'm just simplifying
But
it here. Okay,
simplifying, yeah.
yeah, and then also then you've got capital value building up over time, and then you get obviously the best of both worlds, and that's how a business should be. Okay, create monthly cash flow. Okay, make sure it's making profit, and then also it increase, enhance, improve the capital value. So at the end, okay, all your hard work that you put in over the years, it has given you a monthly return, but at the end, it gives you a big, fat, juicy check, okay, which is the capital value of your business.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. And but it also means that if you, yeah, let's take, for argument's sake, a property investment business. Can't imagine why I thought of that. Um, but
There's a reason you get paid the big bucks, Kieran.
well, I get paid the bucks. But if you've developed your business and systemized it to a point where, say, your primary strategy is buy-to-lets, and you know one half of the business focuses on finding funding and refurbing the properties, and the other half focuses on tenants, longevity within the business, management, maintenance, and that side of it. But both systems are processed and systemized. Well, okay, what do you do next? Well, you continue scaling that business because you've got the systems and processes in place. But then you might look at it and go, yeah, but do I want to open another one within the property sphere that does something slightly different? Maybe serviced accommodation. Maybe you look deeper into HMOs. Maybe you start commercial conversions. It gives you that freedom to look at those options in depth rather than rushing around like a headless chicken, which a lot of staff do, let alone a lot of business owners. And business owners work harder than the staff, I promise you that. And then suddenly you've got that breathing space to go, okay, well, I want to start something else. I want to do something else. Or, heaven forbid, you go, I'm going to take the family away for 3 weeks. I know the business is going to be okay. I don't need to be attached to my phone. I can focus my energy and my time on my family. And that's magical. Because you only get one chance to see your children grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think obviously linked with that, which is an important point you make about scaling up, is to some extent you have to diversify.
Yes.
Okay. And don't put all the eggs in one basket. That's going to help you to scale up. And linked with that is to scale up, to truly scale up. For most people, this is, by the way, because there's always anomalies. Okay. There's always a Facebook and a Google and an Apple and all those type of businesses in every sector, in every industry. But generally speaking, you've got to have more than one stream of income. So as you've said, you've got your buy-to-lets, then you start, okay, now let's look at service accommodation, and then, okay, I'll add on to that commercial conversion. So now you've got 3 streams of income, diversified to some extent, okay, because they are 3 very different types of businesses, even though they're in the world of property.
Yep.
And
you've actually got
now,
4 because you've also got all your tenant side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you've got your opportunity now to scale up very, very quickly. And obviously, when I say very quickly, quick to one person might be buying 2 properties a year or buying 1 property a year. And somebody else, might be adding 10, 15 properties a year. And that's not for you and me to obviously tell people what quick or what slow means to them. That's for people to decide themselves. But if they're looking to scale their business, then diversifying and having more than one stream of income is important. And I think also, Kiran, what's important is scaling up doesn't always mean, okay, having more properties.
No.
Scaling up to somebody could mean, okay, that I am going to improve the efficiency, I'm going to improve the profitability, or I'm going to get out of this particular sector, okay, and go into a different sector or a different subsector or sub niche, okay, and use my money wisely and find ways where I can improve my profit by 50%. So I've scaled up my profit by 50%, but I'm not working as hard. So I'm working less, but making more use of what I have in terms of resources and capital. So I'm being efficient and effective. And that's also scaling up.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
You've scaled up your profits.
Yeah.
Not the size of your business, but you've scaled up your profits.
And something interesting you said there is that you can scale it up so you're not working as hard, but you're getting more cash flow. And the reason why I draw attention to it is because a lot of people mistakenly connect 2 dots that aren't actually connected, and that is level of hard work, level of income. And in some cases, yes, but in the majority of cases, working harder doesn't necessarily mean better cash flow. Working smarter and in the right way, you always have to work hard to get better cash flow. That's almost a non-negotiable.
There's no shying away from that. You're absolutely right. And we did a whole series on that. Do you remember when we talked about?
Yeah, we did.
Mindset and money and how money moves. Okay. Just to add to what you've said, is some of the hardest working people in the world, okay, are the poorest people in the world.
But that's not necessarily, I mean, Some of that might be education, some of that might be drive, some of there's a thousand
Circumstance, situation
million
where you're born,
reasons.
opportunity.
But
a lot of things. Yeah.
business owners, entrepreneurs, property investors, people like that. These are people, don't get me wrong, who work incredibly hard, and as Shaz will attest, and I can attest. I mean, Shaz and I both work very, very hard and very, very diligently, but we work in a way that, or we both try to work in a way, and Shaz will correct me if I'm wrong here, where no effort is wasted.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you just learn that you've got to make the best use of every moment that you have.
Yeah, and I learned this off of Shaz. No doubt.
So I've taught you at least one good thing.
Yes.
In the last 50 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. I can sleep easy tonight.
You can. You've taught me a lot of valuable lessons, and you continue to teach me valuable lessons, and I appreciate every single one of them. I truly do.
Welcome.
But that's the thing. It's not. Don't get confused with the idea of working harder. Work hard, but work smart. Systemize process, plan, develop, grow. That will get you more returns and more cash flow than just working harder. It's the old martial arts adage that someone who is strong, if you take two martial artists, same level, same quality, they've got the same number of years experience, but one has focused purely on power. They will lose every single time to the weaker person who has mastered technique.
Yep.
Every single time,
and
without fail.
It's important in scaling up as well, because next week, when you're going to share our 456F model, also, Kiran, if you bring in the Entrepreneur's Cookbook, okay?
Yep.
In there, I wrote at the start the six stages of scaling up a business. Okay, so obviously today we're setting out the foundations. Next week we'll go into the real nuts and bolts of scaling up, both using our the FFF model and also those 6 stages. But you're absolutely right, because when a person who becomes a good entrepreneur, in my experience, or a good business owner, the two different skills. There's one who develops more than one skill. So they have a core competency of 3 or 4 skills, as you've shared in your example of martial arts. They have 3 or 4 core competencies that they build and develop and strengthen over time, okay, which makes them a well-rounded person, which helps them to achieve whatever goal they set out to achieve within the limitations that they put upon themselves. Because you've heard me say before, okay, we never achieve beyond our expectations and our limitations. So whatever limitations people want to put, okay, they can do. Some people want to put no limitations, even better. Just go out there and do your best and scale up and grow and expand as you see fit.
Yep, completely agree. And I mean, when you look at limitations, you can completely see that in the animal world. You look at certain fish. Certain fish will only grow to the size of the tank they're in. You give them an ocean, they grow to these massive, humongous sizes. Give them a fish tank, and they only grow to the size of the enclosure they're in. Fleas will jump a couple of times in a jar, hit their heads, until they will learn not to jump any higher than the lid of the jar. Then you can take the lid off, and they won't jump out.
Yeah, but that's so beautiful, isn't it, Kieran? Because that, for us in life, sums up what we're really saying is stop swimming in a tank, okay, and stop living in a tank, and go out there and discover the deep depth of an ocean.
Yeah, and the depths of yourself, the depths that you can reach, that will be you will be surprised at yourself.
Yeah, but that is our ocean, isn't it? If you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah. and
that
you'll
is
be
the-
you will surprise yourself as to how deep you can go and how far you can get. And to hammer home that point, I guess, is if you look out in a clear night sky and look at all the stars, and we're not going to get into the science of how far away the stars are and light years. And anyway, I digress. Sorry, but if you take a shot and aim for the stars, aim for the furthest distant galaxies that you can see, and you make it out of the solar system or make it to the moon, you're still further ahead than every single person who is still looking down at the ground. And not by a small margin either.
Absolutely.
And people spend so much of their lives looking down. Start looking up, start growing. Because growth is upwards.
Yeah. But at the same time, also, with that, which I think is important, is where possible, be proud of the stuff you achieved. Some of the people I meet and say, because inevitably it gets to this question, by the way. And it used to be the same when I was around a lot of speakers. What do you speak about? What do you speak about? Or I was speak once in what somebody speaks about in the world of property. It gets to how many properties do you own? And the answer people you give, I only own 5. I say, you say you only own 5, but in this room here, there's people who own none. 1, 2, 3. So only 5 isn't only 5. That's 5 more than what most people may have in this room here. So own that, be proud of that, and say, I own 5, but I want to get to 15. That's fine. Does that make sense? So people who whatever they have, they sometimes don't see that as an achievement. I think see it as an achievement and think this is the floor, and then have a ceiling, as high as you want.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think also off the back of that is be proud of what you've achieved, regardless of where you think you are in your journey, but also be grateful for where you're at, because there's always there's always a bigger fish. There's always somebody bigger, better, done more, seen more, got more, whatever. I don't compare my bank balance to Elon Musk's bank balance because he's gone on a different journey to me. I can't compare the two. But does that mean that I've not achieved anything because he is so much further ahead than I am? No, not at all. And I'm grateful for what I have learned and what I have achieved. And always be grateful.
Absolutely. Wise words there.
Thanks for listening to Wealth Made Simple. You can follow and contact Shaz on the Facebook pages Entrust Property Tax and The Profits Wizard. You can also find Shaz on LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram. Alternatively, email him at shaz@aa-accountants.co.uk. Build your wealth by mastering money.